Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Playeasy Warmup, the podcast where we dive into the stories, people, and places driving the sporting event and tourism industry forward. I'm your host, Kerri Shields. Today's episode is an exciting one because we're diving into the world of emerging sports, global media, and next generation fan engagement. I'm joined by Paul Rigault, the founder and CEO of the DØDS Diving League, one of the fastest growing extreme sports leagues in the world. Paul has taken DØDS diving from a bold idea rooted in Norway and transformed it into a global sports and media property now broadcast over 200 million households worldwide. The league recently expanded its world championship beyond Norway for the first time and is in the process of securing Boston as a U.S. host city, landed an ESPN broadcast partnership for the 2026 World Tour, and finalized a major European media deal with sports.com. They're also launching a DDL collegiate tour in 2026, creating a true pipeline from amateur to professional competition. In this conversation, we talk about what it takes to build a media first sport, how cities can position themselves to attract emerging leagues, the role of Gen Z fans and creator culture, and how DØDS is redefining what a global sports property can look like in today's landscape. If you're interested in the future of sports, media, destination strategy, and how new leagues scale on the world stage, you're going to love this episode. I hope you enjoy. Welcome to Sports City, USA, Frisco, Texas. Ever wonder how a small town in North Texas became the epicenter of American sports? From the Dallas Cowboys to the PGA of America, Frisco is where champions train, fans gather, and unforgettable events come to life. In our new docuseries, Where Greatness Grows, hear the real story from the people who built it. City leaders, sports execs, and visionaries who turned Frisco into a powerhouse for tournaments and meetings. With world-class venues, championship fields, and top-tier hotels all in one place, Frisco is more than ready to host your next big event. Watch the story at sportscityusa.com.
You have so many of the professional leagues touching this community, whether it's Major League Soccer or the NFL or the PGA.
Failure was just not an option.
It's been really cool to build the business that we have here in Frisco.
It's one of those places where you want to be if you're into sports.
People are pointing here, and they're saying, I need to go there.
Paul, welcome to the Playeasy Warmup podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Great to see you.
Yeah, great to see you too. I know we were able to meet in person a few weeks ago at Teams, and so I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, I was actually so amazed. Columbus is such a cool place.
Oh, we said the same. That was our first time there. I know
Yeah.
I've heard from all of my friends who are Ohio State fans, but we were so impressed by the city and just overall, and excited to go back. I'll be there for the Sports ETA conference, so super excited. But so to start us off, you've taken DØDS diving from a niche Norwegian phenomenon to one of the fastest growing extreme sports in the world. Can you share a bit about your personal journey and what first pulled you into the sport and this vision?
Yeah, so that's a great question because I didn't come from sports.
Yeah.
I'm a former advertising executive, so I was all about branding, working with consumers. This was a sport that we did when we were kids. So we were the last generations of divers doing this stuff, and it was peacocking from the 10 meters to hit on girls. That was kind of the recipe. And suddenly this kind of sport from Norway started to die out. We were the last generation doing it. So we started to organize competitions. And it only took a couple of years and it totally blew up. It kind of resonated for a whole new generation of divers coming into the arena, but with a whole new energy. So the first year we had 150 people, the second year 1,500 people, and then suddenly 3,000 people. And then now the sport is reborn with social media and its DNA, and then it's sayonara.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's funny as I was doing research preparing for this interview. I have to admit, I'm a little scared of heights, but I do enjoy the thrill of heights. And so it took me back to we always used to bridge jump at the beach that we go to, and so it's just an accessible sport that you've made into this full phenomenon. And so For listeners who may be new to DØDS Diving League, can you share what DDL is today and how it's redefining competitive diving on a global stage?
Yeah, most definitely. So it's very similar to how snowboarding changed skiing back in the 90s and suddenly became the most watched Winter Olympic sports. We're doing exactly the same for traditional diving. So there's a whole new generation of people coming into this space, but they come from all different kind of sports. So they come from trampoline, parkour, snowboarding, freestyle skiing, sports with a little bit more kind of Gen Z friendly DNA to it. And this became the platform for that evolution. So we are today the platform for freestyle diving and hopefully becoming an Olympic sport in the future.
That's amazing. And what gap did you originally see in the diving and extreme sports space that really inspired you to create DDL?
Oh, energy. You were coming into this swimming pool and you smell the chlorine and you saw the speedos and this quiet kind of vibe with small kids changing diapers, and it was such an uncool era but an important one. And then suddenly once you started putting some entertainment into it and you started kind of bringing the party to the pool, it changed everything. So I think the cool thing about this, it's immediately entertaining. So you'll once people are starting to dodge from the diving tower in the pool, you'll see people start grouping around it because it's entertainment. And once you put some music into that and you bring the party to the pool and you have this hybrid of a music festival meets sports entertainment and everybody's filming it, you got the recipe for gold.
I did stalk some of your social media and just overall content while prepping, and you could. That's what I was. The first thing that came to mind was the energy. Like you can feel like you are at one of those festivals. It made me want to be out of the cold and into into the warm summer energy around water. And so that was something that definitely came across in all of the visuals of your event experience. And so to get into some of the competition based, so what makes DDL's team based competition format unique compared to traditional diving or other extreme sport leagues?
That's a good question. I think it's a league built on the premise of athletes first. So, meaning that we don't want to own the whole ecosystem. We want to own the coolest league, meaning that we do want all the athletes to be able to become professional by being entrepreneurs themselves. So instead of taking full ownership over their commercial inventory or their commercial value, you go ahead, book your sponsors, come to the league with your sponsors, embrace, tell your story, be your personal character within that space. And with that comes sharing. And I think that's maybe the X factor of our league, is that all our athletes aggregate absolutely everything we do. So we average 17 million views organically per event. And that's just because all these guys and girls are superstars in social media.
Yeah,
You have to be nice. You have to behave. That's one of the most important things here. You can't dictate anymore. You have to be a part of it. It has to be a part of the general story and the community that you built. And again, back to athletes first. I think that's the DNA of it all.
Yep. And I mean, just how important storytelling is. And so, what type of athlete is drawn to DDL today? And what do they say about competing in this environment versus traditional circuits?
Yes, I think that's kind of coining it, because you do need interesting characters to drive the narrative. So to have these good stories, otherwise you have to put a lot of money into it. It's a little bit cheaper if your characters are already there. And I think, fortunately, from our perspective, we have the sickest characters you can only dream about it. You have a guy, he's 55-year-old. He's got a mohawk. He's a professional Dutch diver. His family lives outside of Oslo in Norway. And you have this little kid, he's 13 years old. He's taking his father all around the world to compete in this league. And you have everything from supermodels to kind of sports junkies to kind of just aficionados. And I think that brings the story to the table. You'll see this once you see we're airing on ESPN this season, and you'll see the gallery and the personality behind the sport is insane. It's addictive, I would say.
And that's what you often talk about building for kind of a Gen Z and digital first
Mm.
audience. And so, how do you think about fan experience, community, and just the authenticity when designing both the live event and broadcast product?
It has to be short, it has to be immediate, and it has to be kind of addictive. Once you get that kind of thing, then you can work on the long format part. And you have to think about it as it can't only be a cat falling out of the sofa and then you have your viral clip and then suddenly that's the solution for everything. I think the structure around it is that we've decided early on that if you want to get to know the athletes, you want to follow them, you want to follow the hype before, under, and after the competitions, that's social media. If you want to see the competition, that's linear or streaming.
Yeah. And how do you find these characters? Is it something that the virality of the sport and these clips have gotten some of these characters just on board, or is that something you're going after a specific audience?
I think you'll find this probably in all action sports. You tend to attract crazy people. But I do think that the cool thing about DØDS diving is we're cross-pollinating to every possible action sports in the world. So we have people from trampoline, parkour, snowboarding, freestyle skiing, fighting, skydiving. You name it, we have it. And I think that kind of brings the joy and the play back in the sport. So at least what we're hearing back from the athletes is this is snowboarding early 90s. It's like it's still playful, it's still about the community, the camaraderie, but it's fun to watch.
Yeah. And you guys have continued to grow tremendously into new cities. And so when you are selecting a new host city, what do you look for in an ideal destination or a venue for a DDL spot?
Yeah, Kerri, so that's maybe one of the most kind of important topics for an emerging sport, matching with host cities, especially with us just coming back home from Columbus now. Uh, the whole venue is changing. Everything is changing now because the traditional big fives, basketball, football, they already have their verticals and that investment asset already exists. But there is an appetite, an immense appetite, both from the athlete's perspective, but also from the content perspective and the event perspective, to go and see new stuff. And especially for Gen Z, they don't want to watch a 2-hour long game. They want to watch something happening quickly and fast. And I think that for host cities, it's important to understand that there's a whole new generation of athletes and fans coming into your town. And if you want to kind of cater that need, you also have to be awake. You can't just think about the traditional heads and beds. You can't only think about branding of your city. You actually have to think about the identity of your city and also being part of the next generation of people moving into your city. So that's the college, that's the heads coming in, the workforce coming into your cities, that's the families starting to live there instead of your neighbor cities. So that whole kind of shift, it's starting to show itself, and we're seeing that with some of the cool cities that we are in dialogue with, both in the US and outside. These are people who want this change into their city, and they see the media value of it. They see the long-term investment of kind of bringing something to their city that's young.
Yeah. And I think that's been one of the coolest parts about my journey. What excites me most is when we started Playeasy in 2018. I think we had around 20 sports on the platform, and what has now grown into 100 plus sports, and that just grows weekly. And I think the opportunity for some spaces that these cities don't even know they have that could turn into just an overall event experience. And so I was on a call this morning with a city and I said I was speaking to you, and they said, "Well, what do they need for that?" I'm like, "Well, do you have water, a body of water, and some outdoor space?" And it wasn't even a thought for them to think that they could host an event like yours. And so, at the bare minimum, what do you look for one of your host cities?
Yeah, so a body of water.
Yes.
That's helpful. In Norwegian, you call it, you don't want to land dry. That's so what we need is 12 feet depth of water, and then we can fix the rest. So we can build a scaffolding tower, we can jump from a bridge, we can do it from a boat. But the coolest thing is to make the spectator kind of area the most accessible as possible. So for the first time, we had the World Championship outside of Norway. We had it in Tobago, which we met at teams last year. And then suddenly you have 10,000 people on the beach, and then you have a jetty, and then you build a tower on the jetty. That was one solution. We've had it in community pools. We've had it in rivers. We've had it in oceans from a barge. So I think the more scenic kind of the backdrop is, the more viral everything goes. But at the end, we are also kind of a media product. So we're coming to town kind of in a 3-day activity with a full broadcast going on ESPN. And then we have our social media team storytelling with all the athletes. We're flying 40 athletes over from Europe, the US, South America. So there is a host city investment needing to be there. But we are working as we speak now with Boston on developing a concept that is a little bit easier for the host city to digest. So meaning that we don't just want hard cash, but we can collaborate on commercial inventory, making it possible for host city to go break even, which is our goal. Yeah. Having the events. By introducing commercial partnership with their local commerce. So that's a new model that we're testing this year, making sure that we at least can kind of co-fund the event. So we're taking 2/3 of the cost ourselves, but at least that we have some support going into the city.
And for an event like this, from a destination perspective, and you've touched on just the overall digital imprint, but could you expand on what kind of economic, cultural, and just overall impact these events generate beyond the hotel room nights?
Yeah, so we average 3,000 to 5,000 people the first year, so that's a good buzz. But if you want to kind of have people start coming in from other cities and further away, you need to kind of have a 3 to 5 year plan with this. And this is back to the kind of investment in this sport for your host city. If you want to become a proper stop on the World Tour and an official qualifier for the World Championship, invest, because second year, we're averaging 5,000 to 7,000. On the third year, 7,000 to 10,000 people. And then suddenly people start to fly in to see these events. And then suddenly we tap into the college scene and we start recruiting athletes locally. And then we build a local hero. And then we build a separate podium. So we have a state champion. And then little by little, those broadcasts becomes bigger and bigger. And then our goal for 26 is already piloting the collegiate tour, tapping into the World Tour, meaning that this is going to be big in the US the next couple of years.
And that's been a common theme in conversations I've had with a lot of these emerging sports, is just the importance of multi-year partnerships. Why do you think that that is so important of an investment from a city?
It's predictable for both parties, meaning that you can go into a city and you can do a 3 to 5 year broadcasting deal. And with that broadcasting deal, you can sell sponsorship towards that broadcasting deal. For the local municipality, they can invest in that scaffolding, so they can deduct that over a 5 year period. The hype machine from year 1 to year 2 is the same. It's just like you multiply. So there's and all the learnings from going from 1 year to the second year, it makes it suddenly an investment, because you definitely see the return on investment going to year 2 and year 3. So just by having this defined next year and you are an official stop on the World Tour, you'll become the official city. So it's a big thing.
Yeah. And I love that it's in Boston. Boston is a second home to me. And so I'm excited for that partnership. And you just announced they will be the US host city after Red Bull Cliff Diving stepped out. And so what does that moment mean for DDL and its positioning in the US market?
Yeah, so I just have to clarify one thing. We are in final negotiations because we testing this commercial model in Boston, but hopefully everything will come in place for the 26th season. This becoming the U.S. national as planned on August 8th, and that will definitely become a game changer for us because. Usually we're a big fish in a small pond. That's our model. So we go to smaller cities and then we bring the show to the city and become a part of the identity. But suddenly you have kind of this art by accident or reborn in the perfect storm. Red Bull was going out of Boston. They wanted a new diving event. They already have 20 to 40,000 people filling the pier. Why not bring another new school diving event to Boston? So that was kind of the whole idea behind it. And we can't wait to bring this to Boston. It's and just like you said, I had my first trip to Boston this summer. I totally fell in love with that city, the whole vibe, the sporting scene, the kind of young energy. Isn't Mark Wahlberg from Boston as well?
Mark Wahlberg he is from.
How much is happening in Boston?
It is. And I have to, you went at the perfect, there's nothing better than summer in Boston, and just the overall vibe and how much they've built within the city has been incredible. That is where Playsy's home base is, in Boston.
And I just wanted to add one thing. I think that Meet Boston is the perfect example of everything that we're talking about now, because they have this pragmatic but also progressive view of how to adapt and look at new things. I think going into the dialogue where we're now, hopefully landing this with Boston, it's easy. It's easy to talk to each other. It's easy to try to plan. It's easy to kind of be honest about the program and not having too many agendas. And that helps because then it becomes a partnership. And I think that's maybe one of the most important things we've learned. This only works if the whole city wants it to work. If there's too much friction, if there's too much kind of wheeling and dealing, too much business inside of it, and the parties don't understand the partnership, it's not worth it. It has to be a partnership.
Yep, I totally agree. And we love the team at Meet Boston. And so this event, hopefully if it goes through, will also be broadcast on ESPN. And what does an ESPN partnership signal for the league's growth and credibility and future?
Yeah, so I don't know if it was by accident or not, but they picked up, or we actually reached out back in 2018. We never thought we were going on ESPN, but they actually showed on ESPN Ocho with the cheese rollers and the bean bags, the crazy stuff. They showed the World Championship in Oslo. So for a couple of years, it's just like, okay, we'll support this. And this year was the first time the whole league was broadcasted. So it gave us the opportunity to kind of pick up that momentum again and give them and offer them an actual league to follow. So that's a huge step for us and for our host cities and for our commercial team partners and sponsors and everything. So I would have never dreamt we've been landing ESPN in 2026. No, that's a dream.
Well, congratulations. And it sounds well deserved. And I know how much work goes into building a brand and this vision. So it's awesome. And on the international side of things, you've finalized a broadcast partnership with sports.com for full European exposure. How does that global distribution change the scale, investment opportunity, and overall trajectory of DDL?
Yeah, so the big change happened during this season because now suddenly we had something to learn from. So evaluating the broadcast from this season with NRK, which is the Norwegian national broadcaster, they showed us that 1/3 of the viewership was under 30 years old. That was a record for them. That value proposition changed everything. So once we said that to ESPN, once we said that to sports.com, the zones, NBC in the Middle East, people wanted this stuff because TV is dying. So for them to have a sport that people are actually willing to go to your linear channel, a fast channel to watch, and you're under 30, imagine the value proposition for advertisers. So, and I think that's maybe one of the most important thing about emerging sports right now is the appetite for content is there. And we do know that the prognostics are that 77% of all ad revenue in entertainment will come from this space in the future, meaning that they will need content to fill that advertising space as well. So this is the recipe for emerging sports and emerging sports city, that actually these sports are willing to be invested in from the broadcasters.
Yeah, and this year has been clearly a historic year for you guys, and with your World Championship expanding beyond Norway for the first time with the finale in Tobago. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. And so, what did the international expansion just represent for the league?
It kind of it's like everything when you transition from grassroots to professional, and we've been through that journey the last couple of years. I think there is kind of this pivotal moment where suddenly things become true. So this sport becomes professional, it becomes an international league. And then suddenly you have the push from the municipality of backing this event, just like in Tobago. I've never worked with Tobago before. I didn't know what to expect. I know it was hot. That was the only thing I was expecting. But coming into this island and being treated like heroes, coming into all the local radio station, the local press, being at municipality meetings with like 20 people and the flag, and it was so official and the whole island was behind it. So for us to see kind of this, and the main reason why they kind of were interested in our sport is because they focus on sports tourism, because they don't want that mass tourism breaking their island. It's not that big. So they need people that can respect the island, but in the same time use the island and experience the island. And with us, we brought that kind of marketing and that kind of vibe and those kind of athletes to the island. So they call it one of the most successful thing they've ever done. And we totally fell in love with that island. So that's the first one for us.
Oh, that's awesome. And it just, I mean, shows just how important that partnership is, and making it feel like it really is that, national championship feeling, and you feeling important in a new space. And so you also mentioned the DDL Collegiate Tour that's coming in 2026, and it's creating a pipeline from amateur to professional competition. And so what does that look like? And could you give more detail into where we could find?
Yeah, so in short, we are a natural evolution of diving, but we culturally positioned ourselves away from traditional aquatic sports. Just because the people were coming from other sports, so they were coming from snowboarding, skateboarding, surfing, a little bit a different attitude towards the sport.
Yeah.
What we're seeing today is that the new generation, they don't care. They don't have that history of chlorine and speedos and diapers and all that stuff happening in the pool. For them, the pool is cool.
Yeah.
So they bring those tricks back in the pool, and suddenly the whole kind of dynamic inside the pool changed, meaning that the fans of aquatic sports are also changing. So we're also kind of adapting to that and tapping into that ecosystem, and we want to be a part of that. Just like snowboarding was a part of the Winter Olympics and skiing and all that stuff, we're part of diving and aquatic sports. So for us, then it became naturally to kind of start tapping into diving clubs, because half of our athletes come from traditional diving or comes from freestyle diving. So by kind of igniting a little spark in local diving clubs and inviting them in 26 and 27 to be part of an amateur league, but a full collegial structured league where the big final comes as day one during the US Nationals, and then the World Tour is the day after. That's going to be a huge one, and recruiting a full kind of pyramid from amateur to professional pathway, which we think going to ignite the sport in the US.
And it seems to be a common theme, and I heard you speak about this on another podcast, of the importance of listening to your audience. So listening to your athletes and your spectators, and the importance of adapting to continue to grow your product. Why have you been intentional in doing so, and how has that helped with your overall growth?
Yeah, that's a good question, because one thing is kind of sharing everything. That's not working. So
Yeah.
there's somebody needs to kind of steer the ship, but
Yeah.
there's something about at least kind of having the culture of being honest, having the culture within the organization of having clear about what you want to build. And then, of course, you will always have somebody not being or agreeing in what you're doing. But I do think that at least it makes it a little bit more pragmatic on if you want to be a part of this, these are the rules and this is what we're doing. And we're going to try to be as honest as possible. And that energy is very addictive because most people are very used to kind of very hard negotiation. It's very contractual. It's very kind of, it's me against the world. We're trying to build it more with a community vibe.
I love that. I think it's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in growing a business is the importance of listening to your customer and what it is that they are looking for, what they need, and
Mm.
adapting based off of that feedback. I agree. There's definitely a point where someone has to steer the ship, but
Mm.
having it feel like, your audience is really an extension of your team, I think is just so important in the overall growth of a business. So I love that is kind of your take on that. And so as you look forward to 2026, what are you most looking forward to?
This is going to be our first full live season, so that's going to be kind of hopefully that goes well on the ESPN. So that's something I'm looking forward to. Of course, Boston. I hope we kind of land that within the next couple of weeks because that's such a big one for us. And then, of course, piloting the collegial tour. I'm very excited to see how US traditional divers are going to transition to hardcore freestyle diving, full action with pyro, DJs, bringing the party to the pool. That's going to be our mission in 26.
Yeah. Well, I hope that as soon as that is finalized, we are definitely going to add it to the calendar because it's an experience that we want to be a part of the fun. But I do have a question. So, how could you explain how a traditional diver would come in? Is it something they are being creative on their own with the types of dives? Like, how is there a winner to these competitions?
Yeah, so it's in short, it's very similar to a half pipe and big jump on or big air on snowboarding. So you have speed out of the tower, you have the trick you do in the air, and then you have the landing, and then we have an additional judge, which is a steez judge, meaning it has to look stupid easy. That's the swag style. And then you have one overall judge. So it seems like random, but it's not. So we have a library of over kind of 80 different tricks in the air. We know how they are well executed. You have 5 judges judging everything, and we will also introduce AI once that's ready to have a support judge, and then this will also potentially be bettable within 2027.
Awesome. So, for anyone listening who wants to get involved in participating as a diver, how would they do so?
Okay, so the first thing I would do is check our calendar. So follow us on Instagram, and then that one will air within the next 6 weeks. Once you have an event near you, start shipping us a mail and interest for being in the round. If you're good enough, you will be considered because we only have 40 slots. But meanwhile, we'll definitely recommend everybody to watch our Instagram to start kind of getting to know the tricks, the people, and everything. And we will share for free a full school how to DØDS within 2026 for anybody wanting to join the league. So we will make it easy for people to adapt from traditional diving to the crazy diving.
Oh, awesome. And for any host city that would be interested in hosting a future spot, what is the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, okay, so it's super easy. You just ship me a mail, Paul, Paul, at dotesdivingleague.com. We'll ship you the RFP. We have a questionnaire of 10 questions, location, dates, how many years, all that stuff, water depth, etc. And once that's clear, we do an initial meeting and we set the terms, and then we start looking at the calendar.
That's awesome. And Paul, just to finish this out, I've so enjoyed this conversation, but what has been the biggest lesson that you have learned on this journey? Hard-hitting
Things
question.
take time.
Okay.
So much time, so much more than you think. So work on in Norwegian. You have a saying that learn how to change an engine while you're flying, and that's maybe the best logic I've learned my whole life. It's just like have parallel runs with everything that you do, so you have a big enough pipeline to not stop every time you get a no or it's a maybe or whatever. But plan accordingly, and just also adapt the strategy to have some leniency towards time and not overstressing it, because the most important thing is a sustainable, good partnership. That's the moneymaker.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Paul, this has truly been such a pleasure, and I am excited to see your continued growth, and I hope that we can connect in person again.
No, likewise. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thanks, everyone. Until next time. Bye.